The Dory Empire ruled the edge of the galaxy for thousands of years. No other species could match their power. They were so advanced that simpler civilizations thought they were gods. The Dory could control quantum forces with their bodies, bending light, moving matter, and wielding energies that seemed impossible. Emperor Tai sat on his gleaming throne in the Crystal Palace on Dorian. Sunlight filtered through the transparent walls, casting rainbow patterns across the Grand Council chamber. Around him stood his most trusted advisors, their skin shimmering with the faint blue glow that marked all Dory. "Our empire has reached a critical point," Emperor Ta said, his voice deep and measured. "Our resources grow thin while our population increases. We must expand." The council members nodded in agreement. They had conquered hundreds of worlds over the centuries, each one adding to their vast empire. The process was always the same: arrive, demonstrate power, accept worship, extract resources. Commander Yuna stepped forward from the group. Unlike most Dory, she preferred a practical military uniform instead of the flowing robes favored by the council. Her service in the expansion fleet had hardened her, but also given her a deeper understanding of other species than most Dory possessed. "My scouts have found something promising," she said, activating a holographic display in the center of the chamber. A star system appeared, rotating slowly. "In Sector 87, we've discovered a system with 9 planets. The third one can support life. In fact, it already does." The display zoomed in to show a blue-green planet wrapped in swirling white clouds. "Interesting," said Emperor Ta, leaning forward. "What life forms exist there?" "A bipedal species," Commander Yuna replied. "They call themselves humans. They've developed basic technology, primitive spacecraft, simple energy weapons, limited artificial intelligence. Nothing that could challenge us." "Resources?" asked Council Member Gan, who oversaw the Empire's mining operations. Yuna smiled. "Abundant. The planet is rich in rare metals, water, and biological diversity. Their moon contains helium-3 in quantities that could power our central worlds for centuries." Emperor Ta stood and walked around the hologram, studying the planet from all angles. "They will make a fine addition to our empire. Prepare a diplomatic mission." "I recommend caution," Yuna said, her voice careful. "Our long-range scans detected some unusual energy readings. Nothing threatening, but different from what we typically see from developing worlds." Emperor Ta waved his hand dismissively. "Your concern is noted, Commander, but unnecessary. How many primitive species have we encountered?" 372, Emperor. "And how many posed any threat to us?" Yuna lowered her eyes. "None, Emperor." "Exactly." Emperor Te turned to address the full council. "These humans will be like all the others. They will witness our power and bow before us. It is the natural order." Commander Yuna nodded, but doubt lingered in her mind. Something about the sensor readings troubled her. Still, she had her orders. "I will lead the diplomatic vessel myself," she said. "We will depart within 3 cycles." "Excellent," Emperor Te replied. "Take the light of Dorian. Its appearance alone should be enough to awe these primitives." The light of Dorian was one of the Empire's most impressive vessels. Nearly 2 kilometers long, its hull was made of living crystal that could heal itself and change color at will. The ship's engines bent space rather than pushing through it, allowing it to cross vast distances with ease. 3 days later, Commander Yuna stood on the bridge of the light as it prepared to depart. A small flotilla of support vessels surrounded the massive diplomatic ship. Though called a diplomatic mission, all involved knew its true purpose: to claim new territory and resources for the ever-hungry empire. "All systems ready, Commander," reported Captain Jick. "Course plotted for Earth." "Proceed," Yuna ordered. "Standard approach protocol. Initial contact from high orbit, full display of lights and atmospheric manipulation." The ships lifted silently from the massive landing field outside the capital city. Crowds of Dory had gathered to watch the departure, cheering as the vessels rose into the sky. Within moments, they accelerated to speeds no human craft could match, leaving their home system behind. As they traveled, Una studied all available information about Earth. The humans were divided into nations, though they had begun to unify in recent decades. They had survived several global conflicts without destroying themselves. Uncommon among developing species, they showed remarkable adaptability and determination. Perhaps these ones will be more useful than most, she thought. Many conquered species simply collapsed when faced with Dory power, becoming little more than worshipful servants. The more resilient ones made better workers. After several days of travel, the Dory fleet entered the outer reaches of Earth's solar system. They paused near the gas giant Neptune to make final preparations. Begin broadcast preparations, Una commanded. Standard introduction message, translated into their primary languages. The message was simple and had been used countless times. People of Earth, bear witness to the divine Dory Empire. Your world now falls under our protection. Submit and prosper under our guidance. As the fleet moved inward toward Earth, Una felt a strange sense of unease. She ordered additional scans of the system. The readings showed nothing unusual, yet her instincts, honed by centuries of exploration, told her something was not right. Captain, maintain alert status as we approach, she ordered, and prepare the light display. Let's show these humans exactly what they're dealing with. The light of Dorion began to glow with increasing brightness as they approached Earth's orbit. Soon, it would shine like a second sun in Earth's sky, the first step in a carefully choreographed demonstration of Dory power that had never failed to awe primitive species into submission. The Dory Empire had performed this ritual countless times across the stars. They would arrive, demonstrate their power, and watch as primitive beings fell to their knees in worship. It was the natural order of things. Or so they believed. Earth in the year 2157 had changed much from centuries past. After years of wars, climate disasters, and social upheavals, humanity had finally united under one government, the United Earth Council. Small colonies existed on Mars and Europa, and space stations orbited Earth like artificial moons. Admiral June sat in her command chair on Earth Defense Station Alpha, the largest of Earth's orbital platforms. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. 20 years in space defense had taught her to expect the unexpected, but nothing had prepared her for this day. Admiral, sensors are picking up something strange near Jupiter, reported Officer Gu, his fingers flying across the holographic display. Energy readings off the charts. June leaned forward. Show me. The main screen shifted to display the outer solar system. Several points of light were moving toward Earth at impossible speeds. Unknown vessels, Gu confirmed. Nothing in our database matches their configuration. June pressed a button on her chair. All stations, yellow alert. Unidentified craft approaching Earth. Throughout the station, warning lights blinked on. Defense systems hummed to life. Crew members moved quickly to their positions, faces tense but movements precise. How long until they reach us? June asked. At their current speed, 15 minutes. June's eyebrows rose. No known propulsion system could cross such distances so quickly. Contact Earth Command. And get me a visual as soon as possible. Within minutes, the strange ships entered Earth orbit. The main vessel was enormous, at least twice the size of the largest human spacecraft ever built. Its surface looked like liquid crystal, shifting colors in ways that hurt human eyes. Smaller craft surrounded it, moving in perfect formation. They're beautiful, whispered Officer Gu. Beautiful things can still be dangerous, Jun replied. Any communication attempts? Before anyone could answer, every screen on the station flickered. A face appeared, humanoid, but clearly alien. Its skin had a blue tint that seemed to glow from within. Its eyes were large and completely black. When it spoke, its mouth didn't move quite right with the words. People of Earth, the alien said, its voice oddly musical. I am magistrate son of the divine Dory Empire. Your world is now under our protection. June realized this message was being broadcast everywhere, not just to the station, but to every communication device on Earth. Billions of people were seeing this alien face, hearing these words. "We have watched your development with interest," Magistrate Sun continued. "You have potential, but you require guidance. Submit your resources and worship to us, and you shall be spared the fate of those who resist the Empire." The message ended abruptly. The screens returned to normal, leaving a tense silence on the command deck. "They just threatened Earth," Gu said quietly. June's face showed no emotion. "Contact Earth Command. Tell them I'm coming down for emergency council." Within an hour, June stood before the United Earth Council in their underground chamber beneath New Geneva. 24 council members sat in a semicircle, their faces showing various degrees of fear and confusion. "The alien vessels remain in high orbit," June reported. "They have made no aggressive moves yet, but their message was clear." High Councilor Park, an elderly man with steady hands despite his age, nodded gravely. "Their technology is like nothing we've ever seen. The way they broadcast simultaneously to every device on Earth." "It's impossible," said Councilor Han, the youngest member at just 35. "They bypassed all our security protocols, all our encryption. They possess technology centuries beyond ours. We must negotiate terms." Voices rose around the table, some arguing for immediate surrender, others for attempting communication. "We should activate the Mars defense grid," suggested Councilor Ba, "against ships that can cross from Jupiter to Earth in minutes," countered Han. "Our weapons would be useless." June listened silently to the debate. When the voices finally quieted, all eyes turned to her as head of Earth's defense forces. "Your recommendation, Admiral?" asked Park. June's face remained calm. "The Dory believe we are primitive. This gives us one advantage: surprise." She touched a small device on her wrist, bringing up a holographic display of Earth and its orbital defenses. "Our public military capabilities would indeed be no match for these visitors." "Public capabilities?" Councilor Han asked, catching the specific word choice. June nodded slowly. It's time the council was fully briefed on Project Thunderchild. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Most councilors had never heard this name before. Thunderchild was initiated 50 years ago, June explained, after the first confirmed recovery of non-human technology from the Kuiper Belt incident. For half a century, a select group within Earth's defense forces has been developing technologies based on those findings. She pressed another button on her wrist device. A new image appeared, a massive ship hiding within Neptune's atmosphere. "This is the UES Thunder," she said. "Our first true deep space warship. It has remained undetected thanks to technology that masks its energy signature." "How is this possible?" demanded Han. "Such a project would require enormous resources allocated to various research initiatives and deep space studies," June replied. "The project was compartmentalized. Even most of our top scientists only knew their specific parts." High Councilor Park leaned forward. "And you believe this ship can stand against the Dory?" "I believe it can surprise them," June answered carefully. "The Thunder possesses weapons and defense systems unlike anything we've publicly acknowledged. It was built for exactly this scenario. First contact with a hostile advanced species." The council chamber fell silent as everyone considered the implications. "A decision must be made," June continued. "We can attempt to negotiate with the Dory from a position of perceived weakness, or we can reveal our true capabilities and negotiate from a position of strength." Councilor Han shook his head. "If we show aggression, they might destroy us immediately." "And if we submit," June countered, "we may never get another chance to stand as equals." The council debated for another hour before finally voting. By a narrow margin, they authorized the activation of Project Thunderchild. As the meeting ended, June walked to a private communication room. She entered a series of codes that only 3 people on Earth knew, establishing a secure connection to Neptune. "Captain Bin," she said when a man's face appeared on the screen. "The Council has given authorization. Activate the Thunder. It's time to show these gods what humanity can do." June's expression remained calm, but inside, she felt a mixture of fear and determination. Humanity was about to reveal its greatest secret and perhaps change the power balance of the galaxy forever. Deep within Neptune's swirling blue storms, hidden from all but the most advanced detection systems, floated humanity's greatest secret. The UEA's thunder was massive, nearly 3 kilometers long from bow to stern. Its dark hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it almost invisible even when not using its cloaking systems. Captain Bin stood on the command bridge, hands clasped behind his back, as he looked out at the endless blue clouds that had concealed the ship for years. He was a tall man with short gray hair and eyes that reflected decades of military service. Though only 52 years old, the weight of commanding humanity's most advanced weapon had aged him. "Another day hiding in the storms," he said quietly. "It's what we're good at, sir," replied Commander Gill, his second in command. "Staying invisible." The bridge crew worked silently at their stations. They were the best of Earth's forces, chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to keep secrets. For most of them, family and friends believed they served on remote outposts or deep space research stations. None knew they crewed a warship that officially did not exist. Captain Bin walked slowly around the circular bridge. Unlike conventional ships with forward-facing controls, the Thunder's bridge was designed as a complete sphere, with the command chair in the center. Workstations surrounded it in a full circle, allowing crew to monitor every direction simultaneously. The walls displayed external views of Neptune's clouds, though they could show any part of space around the vessel. "Run the daily systems check," Bin ordered. Commander Gill nodded. "All stations, report status." One by one, the officers called out their reports. "Engineering systems nominal," said Chief Engineer Ray. "Dark matter drive at full capacity and ready for immediate activation." The dark matter drive was perhaps the Thunder's most revolutionary feature. Conventional ships used fusion or antimatter engines. The Thunder, however, tapped into the mysterious dark matter that made up most of the universe's mass, giving it speeds that defied traditional physics. "Defensive systems ready," reported Lieutenant Jin. "Quantum shields stable and can be deployed in 3.2 seconds. These shields weren't simple energy barriers like in civilian vessels. They'd manipulated quantum fields to redirect attacks rather than absorb them. Technology reverse-engineered from the crashed alien vessel found in the Kuiper Belt 50 years ago. "Weapons systems primed," said Weapons Officer Yu. "Gravity lances charged and cooling systems functioning at optimal levels." The gravity lances were the Thunder's primary weapons, not lasers or missiles, but focused beams that could manipulate gravity itself, crushing enemy ships or tearing them apart from within. Captain Bin nodded with satisfaction. The Thunder represented humanity's greatest achievement and its greatest secret. After the first confirmed alien crash, world leaders had realized humanity might not be alone. More importantly, they realized they might not be safe. Project Thunderchild began as a contingency plan. What if humans encountered hostile alien life? How could Earth defend itself against species potentially thousands of years more advanced? The answer was not to advance along expected technological lines, but to develop in secret directions aliens might not anticipate. "Captain," called Communications Officer Du suddenly. "Priority message from Earth Defense Command." Bin moved quickly to the center of the bridge. On screen, Admiral June's face appeared on the main display. Her expression was serious. "Captain Bin, this is not a drill. The Thunderchild protocol is now active. Authentication code, Sunrise Omega 7. Bin straightened his back. "Authentication code confirmed, Admiral. What's the situation?" "First contact scenario," Jun replied. "A species calling themselves the Dory have entered Earth orbit. They've demanded our submission and resources." Murmurs spread across the bridge before Bin silenced them with a raised hand. How many vessels? He asked. One large ship, approximately 12 smaller craft. They possess technology far beyond our public capabilities. And your orders, Admiral? June's face showed the faintest hint of a smile. Reveal our true capabilities, Captain. The Thunder is authorized to emerge. For 20 years, the Thunder had remained hidden. For 20 years, its crew had trained for this exact moment. Now it had arrived. Understood, Admiral, Ben replied. We will launch in 30 minutes. After the communication ended, Captain Ben turned to address his crew. This is what we've prepared for. This is why we've sacrificed normal lives, why we've lived in secrecy. Today, humanity shows its true face to the stars. He pressed a control on his command chair. Throughout the massive ship, alert signals sounded. In crew quarters, mess halls, and recreation areas, over 500 men and women stopped what they were doing and moved to their stations. Begin emergence procedures, Ben ordered, and signal the rest of the fleet. This surprised the Dory observers watching Earth. They had detected only one massive ship, but in truth, the Thunder was not alone. Scattered throughout Neptune's storms were 11 smaller vessels, stealth destroyers that had been hidden alongside their flagship. Lieutenant Era monitored the ship's drive systems as power levels rose. Dark matter drive reaching optimal parameters. We'll be ready to move in 20 minutes. Navigation, Ben called. Plot a course directly to Earth orbit. Calculate for a single jump. Most space travel required multiple jumps, with cooling periods between. The Thunder, however, could cross the entire solar system in one massive leap of spacetime. In the weapons control room, crews prepared the gravity lances. In engineering, technicians monitored the quantum core that powered the massive vessel. Throughout the ship, men and women who had trained endlessly for this moment felt a mixture of fear and excitement. Commander Gill approached Captain Ben quietly. Sir, do you think we'll need to actually fire on these aliens? Ben shook his head. Our job isn't necessarily to fight, Commander. It's to show strength. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is simply letting your opponent know you have it. As the Thunder prepared to reveal itself, Captain Ben thought about humanity's long journey to this point. For centuries, people had looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now they had their answer. And it wasn't necessarily good news. Communications, he called. Inform all vessels. We emerge in 30 minutes. This is not a drill. The Thunder and its hidden fleet had been built for one purpose: to ensure humanity would never bow before any self-proclaimed gods from the stars. Today, that purpose would be fulfilled. Deep within Neptune's clouds, the mighty engines of the Thunder began to glow with power as it prepared to show the galaxy that humans were not as primitive as they appeared. In the Grand Council chamber beneath New Geneva, the United Earth Council watched the large screen with growing unease. The blue face of Magistrate Sun filled the display, his black eyes showing no emotion as he delivered his ultimatum. Your time grows short, the Dory representative said. You have had 12 Earth hours to consider our generous offer. Your silence is disappointing. High Counselor Park leaned forward. Magistrate, we are still discussing your proposal. Our world has many nations and peoples. We need time to reach consensus. Time is a luxury you do not have, Sun replied coldly. The divine Dory Empire has claimed thousands of worlds. None have required this much patience. The alien's image seemed to grow larger on the screen. As a demonstration of Dory power, we will now remove a small uninhabited portion of your southern continent. This will help you understand the consequences of further delay. Sensors on the council chamber wall began flashing red. One of the smaller Dory vessels was moving into position over Antarctica. They're charging some kind of energy weapon, reported the defense officer. Counselor Han jumped to his feet. We must surrender immediately. They'll destroy our planet. Admiral June, who had been standing silently at the back of the chamber, stepped forward. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, her posture straight as a steel rod. Nothing in her expression revealed fear or doubt. "With respect, counselors," she said, "I believe it's time for Earth to respond." She approached the communication terminal and pressed her palm against the scanner. The system recognized her authority and gave her control of the broadcast. "Magistrate Sun," she said, looking directly at the alien face, "the people of Earth have considered your offer. We have a response for the Dory Empire." Sun's expression showed mild interest. "You wish to submit. Wise decision." "No," Jun replied simply. "We wish to introduce ourselves properly." She pressed a hidden button on her wrist communicator. "Captain Bin, you are cleared to proceed." Far away, in the swirling storms of Neptune, the UES Thunder and its escort ships activated their dark matter drives. The fabric of space bent around them, creating a tunnel through the void. In less than 30 seconds, they crossed a distance that would take conventional ships weeks to travel. On the Dory flagship, alarms suddenly blared. Crew members rushed to their stations as sensors detected massive energy spikes near Earth. "Magistrate," called the Dory sensor officer. "Unknown vessels appearing in orbit." Sun turned from the communication screen, his confident expression faltering for the first time. "Impossible. Their system contains no other advanced species." The Thunder emerged from its space-time jump directly alongside the Dory flagship. The human vessel dwarfed the alien ship, its dark hull absorbing light while pulsing with subtle energy patterns. Flanking it were 12 smaller ships, each still larger than anything humans had publicly built. On the Thunder's bridge, Captain Bin stood calmly at the center of command. "Position confirmed," reported Navigator Y. "We are holding station 50 meters from the Dory flagship." "Activate quantum shields," Bin ordered. "Charge gravity lances, but do not target. This is a demonstration, not an attack." Around the massive human ship, space itself seemed to ripple as the quantum shields engage. The technology bent light, creating a shimmering effect that made the Thunder seem both solid and ethereal at the same time. In the council chamber, the Earth leaders watched in amazement as their secret weapon revealed itself. Many had not known of the Thunder's existence until today. Now they saw humanity's true power displayed before them. On the Dory flagship, Magistrate Sun stared at his sensor displays in disbelief. The readings showed technology that should not exist on such a primitive world. The energy signatures matched nothing in the vast Dory database. "Scan them again," he commanded. "These cannot be human vessels." "The scans confirm human life signs," his science officer replied, voice shaking. "But the technology, it's beyond anything our records indicated for this species." Sun turned back to the communication screen, trying to maintain his composure. "Admiral Jun, explain these vessels." Jun's expression remained neutral. "As I said, we wish to introduce ourselves properly. What you see is a small sample of Earth's true capabilities." "Impossible," Sun insisted. "Our intelligence indicates your species has barely achieved basic space travel." "Your intelligence is what we wanted you to see," Jun replied. On the Thunder, Captain Bin gave his next order. "Activate gravity projector. Non-destructive demonstration only." From the bow of the Thunder, invisible forces reached out. The gravity projector didn't fire a beam or launch a missile. Instead, it manipulated the fundamental forces of spacetime. Around the Dory flagship, gravity suddenly shifted. The alien vessel's engines fought against the invisible grip, but could not break free. "Their propulsion systems are neutralized," reported Lieutenant Era. "They cannot move or escape." Bin nodded and opened a communication channel. Unlike the Dory, who had broadcast to all of Earth, he sent his message directly to the alien vessels. "This is Captain Bin of the United Earth Ship Thunder," he said, his voice clear and confident. "We've monitored your activities across 3 sectors. We know of the 12 worlds you've stripped bare. We are not your prey." On the Dory flagship, Sun's blue skin paled to almost white. How could they know about those worlds? They have no means to travel such distances. His tactical officer looked up from her station. Magistrate, they've disabled our main drive. We cannot maneuver. 3 of our escort vessels report the same condition. For the first time in his long life, Sun felt fear. The Dory had encountered hundreds of species, all of them easily dominated. None had ever presented technology that could neutralize Dory ships without firing a shot. Release our vessels, Sun demanded over the communication link. In the council chamber, Admiral June shook her head. That decision belongs to Captain Bin. I suggest you listen carefully to what he has to say. Bin's face now appeared on all screens, in the Dory ships, in Earth's council chamber, and on displays around the world. Billions of humans watched as their hidden defender revealed itself. For 50 years, humanity has known we are not alone in the universe, Bin said. For 50 years, we have prepared. We have watched your empire expand. We have studied your technology. We have learned your weaknesses. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Dory Empire believes itself divine. You arrive at worlds, demand worship, and take what you want. That ends today. Earth is not open for conquest. We are not primitive. We are not helpless. And we are certainly not afraid. The Thunder's gravity projector released its hold on the Dory ships, a demonstration that humans controlled the situation by choice, not necessity. Consider your next actions very carefully, Magistrate Sun, Bin concluded. The people of Earth are willing to establish peaceful relations with the Dory Empire, but we will only do so as equals, not as subjects. As the transmission ended, the Dory crew stared at their leader, waiting for his response. For the first time in the long history of the Empire, a supposedly primitive species had not only resisted them, but demonstrated superior power. Magistrate Sun looked out at the massive human warship floating beside his vessel and made the first wise decision of his visit. He remained silent. The Dory ships pulled back to the edge of the solar system near Pluto. Their confidence was gone. For 3 days, they held position there, sending no messages to Earth. The Thunder and its escort ships remained in Earth orbit, ready for any possible attack. On the 4th day, long-range sensors detected a new wave of ships entering the solar system. This fleet was much larger, over 50 vessels, including one that dwarfed even the light of Dorian. That must be the Imperial flagship, Admiral June said as she studied the images in Earth's Defense Center. Emperor Ta is coming personally. Captain Bin, who had returned to Earth for emergency meetings, nodded grimly. They're not retreating. This is a show of force. The massive Dory Armada moved slowly through the solar system, taking position beyond Mars orbit. A single communication came through on all Earth channels. I am Emperor Ta of the Divine Dory Empire, announced a deep voice as a blue face appeared on screens worldwide. I wish to meet with Earth's leaders. The United Earth Council debated for hours about how to respond. Some feared it was a trap, while others saw an opportunity for real peace. We should meet them, Admiral June argued. But not here on Earth. Neutral ground. In the end, they sent their answer. We will meet on Earth's moon. 2 representatives from each side. No weapons. 3 days later, a small Dory shuttle landed on the lunar surface near the human settlement of Armstrong City. A larger human vessel landed nearby. Both were surrounded by a temporary dome that created a breathable atmosphere. Admiral June and Captain Bin stepped out onto the gray lunar dust. They wore simple diplomatic uniforms rather than full spacesuits, showing trust in the shared environment. From the Dory shuttle emerged 2 figures. One was Magistrate Sun, looking less confident than during his first appearance. The other was taller, his blue skin darker and marked with swirling patterns that seemed to move in the light. Emperor Ta had ruled the Dory for over 300 years, and his presence commanded respect even from those who opposed him. The 4 representatives met in the center of the dome. No handshakes were exchanged. The Dory did not share this custom. Instead, they stood facing each other in silence for several seconds. Your world has surprised us, Emperor Ta said finally. His voice was deeper than Sun's, and he spoke more slowly. This has not happened in 10,000 years. Perhaps you should be surprised more often, Jun replied. It can be educational. Te's black eyes narrowed slightly. Your vessel, the Thunder. Our scientists have analyzed its capabilities. By all logic, your species should be millennia from developing such technology. Logic depends on having complete information, Bin said. Your information about us was incomplete. Emperor Ta circled the human representatives slowly, studying them. You've been watching us, he accused, stealing our knowledge. June remained perfectly still as the Emperor moved around her. We've been watching everyone, she replied calmly. Humanity learned long ago to prepare for threats beyond our atmosphere. We chose to appear weak while building our strength. Impossible, Ta said. Our stealth technology cannot be detected. Not by conventional means, Bin admitted. But 50 years ago, one of your scout ships crashed in our Kuiper belt. We recovered both the technology and the surviving crew member. Sun gasped at this revelation, but Tay's expression remained controlled. Nix 427, the Emperor said quietly. We believed it was destroyed in an asteroid collision. Officer Lan survived for 3 years, Jun said. He taught us much about the galaxy before he died. He warned us about empires that consumed worlds. We decided then that Earth would not be one of those worlds. Tay's face showed a mixture of anger and respect. One ship could not provide all the knowledge you've demonstrated. It gave us a starting point, Bin explained. The rest came from observation. Your empire isn't as invisible as you believe. We've had probes watching your activities for decades. Tiny, quantum-linked devices that transmit data instantly across any distance. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried a hint of threat. Impressive. But you are one world. The Dory Empire spans thousands. You cannot match our full might. Captain Bin smiled slightly. Perhaps not. But we know the locations of all 7 of your core worlds, including Dorian. We know about the quantum instability at your empire's heart. You may destroy Earth, but your civilization would not survive our response. The Emperor's eyes widened slightly, the first real sign of surprise he had shown. The quantum instability was the Empire's greatest secret, a flaw in their homeworld's power core that could potentially destroy their civilization if properly exploited. You bluff, he said, but without conviction. Armstrong City has a small museum, Jun replied. Among its exhibits is a detailed model of Dorian's central power facility. I invite you to view it. The 4 representatives walked to the lunar city and entered its museum. There, in a small display case, sat a perfect replica of the Dory homeworld's most secret installation. How? Ta whispered. Officer Lan was one of your engineers, Bin said simply. They returned to the dome for further discussions. For 6 hours, they talked. About boundaries, about resources, about the future. It was not an easy conversation. The Dory had never negotiated as equals before. They had always dictated terms from a position of absolute power. By the day's end, the first tentative agreement was reached. The Dory would recognize Earth's sovereignty and its claim to the entire solar system. Humans would not share their gravity weapon technology. Both sides would establish proper diplomatic relations. As they prepared to return to their vessels, Emperor Tai addressed the humans one final time. For 10,000 years, the Dory have expanded without challenge. Today marks a significant change in the galaxy's balance of power. Change can be difficult, Joan acknowledged, but sometimes necessary. Indeed, the Emperor replied, we will be watching you, humans. And we will be watching you, Bin said with a slight smile. We're quite good at it. The Dory representatives returned to their shuttle. Within hours, their massive armada began to move away from the solar system. On the Imperial flagship, Emperor Ta stood alone in his private chamber. The viewport showed Earth growing smaller as they departed, a small blue world that had changed everything. We thought ourselves gods, he whispered to the empty room. until we saw their warship. His reflection in the viewport stared back at him, its eyes troubled. For the first time in his long life, Ta wondered what other surprises waited among the stars. If one seemingly primitive world could hide such power, what else had the Dory Empire missed in its long history of conquest? As Earth disappeared from view, a new thought formed in the Emperor's mind, one that no Dory ruler had ever considered before. Perhaps it was time to stop conquering and start learning. The Thunder remained in Earth orbit, a watchful guardian. Inside, Captain Bin and his crew monitored the Dory fleet until it left the solar system entirely. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy. The age of hiding was over. A new age had begun, one where humans would stand as equals among the stars, not as subjects or worshippers. It had been a close call. If the Dory had arrived 10 years earlier, before the Thunder was complete, history might have taken a different path. But humanity had been ready just in time. As Captain Bin looked down at the blue planet below, he smiled. The Dory had thought themselves gods, until they saw this warship.